The biggest factor when it comes to learning a language is something that very few language teachers talk about. It's not about how many words you know or how many irregular verbs you can conjugate. It's actually your mindset. Honestly, so many of the hardest things in life are mind over matter. Just like starting this YouTube channel wasn't really about scripting or editing, it was about having the guts to publish my first video and then keep going. So in today's video, I want to talk about the mindset shifts that you need to make now if you want to actually succeed in getting conversational in a language. If we haven't met yet, my name is Liz. I'm a Brit with a degree in Portuguese that relocated to Portugal back in 2017, and I now help other people moving here to build their confidence and conversation skills in Portuguese. I work with hundreds of students inside my Portuguese Pro program, taking them from saying their very first words right up to having their first conversation with native speakers. So if that's something that you want to achieve, head to the description to sign up for my free taster lesson. Okay, the first mindset shift that I need to cover straight off the bat, because it really is the most important, it's okay to make mistakes. First of all, it is absolutely inevitable, but also it's actually the best way to learn. I think one of the things that holds us back when we are learning a language is the shame around making mistakes and looking stupid. We did talk about this a lot in this video over here on why adults suck at learning languages. And one of the things that we discussed was we need to remember what's the worst that can happen. Really, nothing terrible is going to happen if you conjugate a verb incorrectly or use slightly the wrong word for something. Really, it's actually going to help you build relationships with the people around you because they'll know that you're trying, and the best people are going to want to help you out. So the first thing that has to go is any notion of perfectionism or the idea that you are never going to make mistakes, because that just means that you are never going to try and speak and put yourself out there, when that is exactly what you need to do if you're going to get conversational. The second one is something that I often tell myself as well, not just to do with language learning, but anything that I am trying to do. Success is never linear. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're making tons of progress and it's just rocketing up like this. And then sometimes you'll feel you've hit a complete plateau, and sometimes you might even feel that you are going backwards. This is completely normal, especially in language learning, because in the beginning, you're able to pick up so much, you learn so much so quickly. For my students, it's the pronunciation module and things start to make sense. Oh yeah, I can say this correctly. I know how to do this simple practical phrase. But when things start to get a little bit harder and we get the complex grammar coming in there and we start speaking practice and we have to reach for everything in our brain, it's going to feel like we're going backwards, because this is just by nature a much harder part of learning a language. So I want you to remember that. You're never going to be always constantly driving forward. Sometimes it's going to feel like you need to take a step back to let the new information that you are learning settle into your head. The next one, it is okay to take breaks. Now, my students worry about this all the time. They say, oh, I was making such good progress. I was doing so many hours of study, and then we went traveling, or then we had to pack up our house and make the move. So I just want you to know that that is completely okay to take breaks. If you think about how an athlete functions, they're not training non-stop because their muscles would give way. They would injure themselves. Rest is actually really important to consolidate, again, that new information that you are learning to make it come easily the next time you are trying to use it. If we're overworking our brains, they're just going to shut down. With this one, I really like to think about nature and how we have this season where everything is growing and new in springtime, and then summertime when we're all out having a great time, making the most of the long days. But then we have autumn and winter where we have to slow down, the trees are going to shed their leaves, the flowers aren't going to grow. And this is also a really important time for the cycle. So remember, you're not always going to be in spring and summer with your language learning. Sometimes it's going to be autumn and winter. The next mindset shift, it's okay to go slow. I don't know who you think you're in competition with, but there really is no need to go as quickly as possible and beat yourself up if you're not there in 6 or 12 months time, okay? It really is much better to take things slowly and at your own pace and repeat things until you feel comfortable with them. That's why my Portuguese Pro program is actually self-paced. Some people want to go really fast, but it's also okay to go slowly. And this applies when you're speaking as well. So many people want to emulate the way the Portuguese speak straight away. We all know they speak really fast and they drop off syllables and sounds, but I try and get my students to actually really focus on speaking slowly and correctly. This way, I know they're not running before they can walk. I know they do actually know how to pronounce everything correctly. I always compare it to when you're doing reps of a new exercise in the gym. It's better to do them in the perfect form really slowly than to try and do loads without the right form, because then you're not going to be working the right muscles. Over time, you are naturally going to get faster and stronger, but when you're learning, remember that it's okay to go slow. The next one is, if you don't use it, you lose it. It really is so important to stay consistent. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to keep up the same pace of study. I mentioned that before. It's okay to take breaks, but try to make sure that you're keeping Portuguese in your environment if you are taking a break. So this might mean listening to the radio or some Portuguese music or watching a Portuguese series. It really is going to help you to continue to keep Portuguese in your environment so you can continue to immerse yourself in it. Because if you go for a long stretch without using it at all, trust me, it's gonna disappear. So make sure that you are still practicing. Of course, the best practice you can possibly have is speaking with a native speaker. So putting yourself out there as often as you can is one of the best things that you can do to make sure that you are continually progressing. The penultimate mindset shift is probably my favorite, but also the hardest one to do. What I want you to do is fall in love with the process and not the results. Because what happens, we sign up to a course or we decide that we're going to learn a language and we're obsessed with the end result. How quickly am I going to get to this place where I'm going to be speaking and I'm going to be conversational and I'm going to understand everything that's going on around me? If you're so focused on the end result, you're gonna not enjoy the process. What is so much more beneficial is to actually enjoy the process of learning itself, make it fun, make sure it's not overwhelming and boring, which unfortunately the majority of language courses are. Instead, we want to find ways to make this fun, make it fit your personality, make it so that you can't wait to sit down and do your Portuguese study. For me, in my everyday life, I am trying to do this with cooking. I am not a very good cook and I'm always so worried about how the final meal or cake or whatever it is going to turn out that I miss the enjoyment of actually making it. So one of the things I'm trying to do now is take more time to actually enjoy the process of cooking, making it more like a meditation. Maybe I can put some music or a podcast on. I'm not going to rush it. So then if I've enjoyed the process, then the result is going to take care of itself. And that is exactly how it works with language learning as well. If you're enjoying it, you'll want to do more, and that is going to improve your final results. The final one is a really positive one that has helped me so much in terms of my YouTube channel and my business. It's something that my coach Sunny says all the time. My success is inevitable. You have to believe that you are going to be successful while you are going through this process. And remember, if you're enjoying it, if you're putting in the hours, then really it's just a matter of time until the success comes. So I want all of you to remember that this is totally possible for you. It is within your reach to get conversational in Portuguese. So keep telling yourself, my success is inevitable. I hope these mindset shifts have really made you feel fired up and ready to get going with learning some Portuguese now and getting to that conversational level. If you do want to do that, there is no better place to start than my free lesson for beginners. It's linked in the description. I call it my ultimate quick start guide to conversation. So it will help you out a ton if this is what you are looking to achieve. I'll be back next week with more tips and tutorials to improve your confidence and conversation skills in Portuguese, so I will see you then. Ciao for now.